Hello, how's it going out there, everybody? Happy Revenge of the 5th, Star Wars Day. Even though we're not reviewing Star Wars, but still. So, with that, thanks for joining us for a live here, and welcome to my Safe Gayven, everybody. So, if this is your first time checking out a live video of mine, first and foremost, thank you so much. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Michael. I call myself the Black Gay Comic Geek. I always say things I love to talk about here on the channel has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any variation of the four. So I mostly talk about fantasy, which includes superheroes, comic books, action movies, horror movies. And of course, I like to talk about Black representation and queer representation. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you're watching and you're not subscribed. But if you are subscribed already and you're here watching, do me a favor, hit the like button. That tells YouTube that this video is worth getting out there. My channel is also worth getting out there so more eyes can subscribe to the channel so I can continue to grow. I just recently passed over 10,600 subscribers, so now I'm over the hump of halfway through making it to 11,000 subscribers. So let's continue to grow. I actually just hit 20,000 subscribers on Instagram. So yeah, let's grow on all platforms. So if you're not following me on the other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff, follow me on there as well. So with that said, guys, if you cannot tell from the title of the episode, we are here to talk spoilers for the Thunderbolts movie, Thunderbolts Asterix. And since I did say spoilers, or as it's now called, the new Avengers movie. So with that said, guys, as you mostly know, for those that have joined most of my lives, I don't like to do lives alone because I like to have conversations with people. I like to talk and nerd out, everything like that. So I also need you guys in the chat. Hopefully you've seen Thunderbolts. I need you also leaving your comments and everything like that because you're part of the conversation as well. But with that, we're going to have another guest here on the channel. If you saw my live Sinners review, you would know him on from that. Somebody that I've been wanting to collab with for the longest time. And this will be the first on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel where it's just two Black queer men talking about comic book movies and nerd shit. Like every time I have a live, there's always somebody straight. Down with the straight agenda for this channel. This is going to be, my motto is always make it blacker, make it gayer. This is the Make It Blacker, Make It Gayer episode of the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. So with that, let's bring on to the screen Virgo Blade, Ethan.
What up? What up? The gay agenda is alive and well. It's Virgo Blade.
Applause sound.
Thank you. Yep. It's Virgo Blade. I love talking comics, TV shows, movies, books, anything related to stories. I'm into it, and I'm ready to talk Thunderbolts because I got a lot of feelings.
Yes, same. I do too. So with that said, guys, again, Thunderbolts spoilers. So hopefully you've watched it, or you don't care about spoilers. But like I said, you guys are also part of this conversation. So be in the comment section. Otherwise, we just have this conversation with ourselves if we didn't want you involved. But also, one last thing before we start. If Ethan and I are really, even though I'm going to pay attention to the chat, sometimes I might miss certain things or whatever. But if there's a comment or a thing or question or anything like that you really want to get out, or you just want to support the channel, support your local gay, support the local gay economy, especially with everything that's going on in the Trump administration. So yeah, definitely support your local Black gay business. So if you want to support or you want to comment or anything like that to get out, if you want to leave a super chat, again, it's not expected, but it will be greatly appreciated. So with that said, Ethan, and I purposely did not, because I know you talked about Thunderbolts, and I was like, let me put it on mute so I can give him the the algorithm support. But I'm not gonna watch it because I want to know what he thinks live on the channel. But what were your thoughts? Because I don't know if you liked it, if you hate it, whatever. You said you got thoughts. So what were your thoughts?
I got thoughts. Okay, so let's
on Thunderbolts.
Let's take it back. Because going into it, I was a little bit skeptical, mainly because the trailers. And what you have to know about me is that, like, I'm not an MCU hater, but I hate MCU comedy. It gives me hives. I break out. Like, it's not funny to me. Like, it pisses me because, like, when I think of superheroes, like, I'm not here to laugh in most situations. Like Deadpool, okay, Harley Quinn, all right. but the majority of comics I read are not funny. So when I go into a comic book movie, a superhero movie, I don't want some cheesy comedy to be there. And so the trailers for Thunderbolts wasn't grabbing me the way that I needed it to. Mainly because like they were forcing Red Guardian in there, and I'm like, is this going to be all Red Guardian making these jokes? Thankfully, that was not the case. I feel like it was spread out very, very well. I feel like it had emotion, great characterization, action, basically everything that I really want in a superhero movie. Also, Yelena, Miss Florence Pugh, 8 down. Okay, it's like first of all, she's one of my favorite actresses, and she carried the film. I mean, it was basically a Black Widow movie, if we're gonna be real about it. But I'm not mad at it because she carried. It's like she had so much pent up emotion, and she wanted this forward facing position, and she was dealing with her past and just everything she carried within her, and she had to balance so much, and she did everything so well. I was very impressed by this film, and then also to my surprise, like I got choked up because of the subject matter that it was dealing with like the void and emptiness and finding purpose. And also when you mix the superhero narrative into it, because I use superheroes to like lift me up when I'm feeling down, I go read a comic book. And so with this being about heroes, also dealing with emptiness and needing to find a purpose and being out into the spotlight, I'm like, this is hitting a little too hard. But yeah, I was very impressed by this film.
All right. So now, with that said, so speaking of, you talk about the and I feel you on like the MCU jokes and narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like because the first Avengers movie did so what, like that was the granted Iron Man did well as well, but
Mm-hmm.
Avengers is like what really solidified the MCU as like a actual contender in terms of like the franchise and people actually really taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And with the first Avengers movie, it was directed by Joss Whedon, and Joss Whedon is known for doing like the tension breaking and the quips and the quirks and all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I feel like since Avengers, the MCU and Kevin Feige has been chasing that same tone since then, because they're like, oh, because it worked so well with Avengers, now we need to have every single one of our movies
Mm-hmm.
do that same thing. And I hate when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I even think about the moment in like the first Doctor Strange movie where like he like really like started to own his power and trust himself, and he like popped his collar or whatever, and it was that little jokey moment where the cape started rubbing on his cheek or whatever. He's like, stop, like I hated that. Like, why'd you break
Mm-hmm.
the tension?
Yes.
And they do that often.
Yeah. I also blame Guardians of the Galaxy, which, okay, it's fine for Guardians of the Galaxy, but then I feel like it leached into other places, like it went into Thor, like Love and Thunder and Ragnarok, and it worked for Guardians of the Galaxy in that context. And I feel like they have this tendency of like going back. If something worked once, they feel like they can do it again. It's like Joss Whedon has a very particular tone. That's why Buffy works, is because even though he uses humor, it doesn't take away from the drama. Buffy is still the most emotional show like I've ever watched. Like by the end of that series, I'm like breaking down. It's like psychological torture. Um, and that's all with like having comedy basically throughout the majority of the episodes, but he understands of balancing it, of like when to play it like lighter, when to play it more heavy. And the issue is that they don't know when to like, okay, now's the time to like include humor, now's the time to include drama, and so they end up ruining moments. And you can't just have like, oh, comedy, 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 and then one dramatic moment and expect people to feel. And I know I'm not going to be this isn't a popular opinion, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway. It's like that's what Infinity War lacked for me. I appreciated how the MCU like built up to Infinity War. They get kudos all around, but it wasn't dramatic enough. I went into it and like Iron Man's making jokes about like Bruce Banner not being able to turn green, like oh having performance issues, like that. Thanos is coming. Stop, stop playing around. It's like I want to feel the threat of Thanos about to tear stuff up, and so that was my issue going into Thunderbolts, was that with all these great stories, and I'm hearing them talk about like, oh, it's going to be about like mental health and depression. I'm like, okay, but I'm not really seeing it. You're all saying it, but I'm not seeing it.
I
And
even kind of
so
feel that
going
way about Civil War. Like you got these characters fight, even like when Black Widow and Hawkeye were fighting each other. Like and she's like, or Hawkeye was like, but we're still friends though, right? No, like what are you talking about?
right.
Like
Exactly. I want to feel the tension. I want to be stressed out. Like that to me is fun. It's like my favorite comics are the ones where like stuff goes down and like you just know like, oh, there's no going, this is the point of no return. They did something heavy and not breaking the tension with a joke. It feels like it's made for the general public and not for like actual fans. And I feel like you can do both. I'm not anti general public. I feel like they're smarter than what like superhero
fuck the
movies.
general public.
Ah! Well, damn. But I feel like they're smarter than they're giving credit for. And but then also, if they're not, I still don't want y'all to put out something like basic and cookie cutter of like, oh, since they don't take superheroes seriously, we have to take them as jokes too. That defeats the purpose. Because like to me, I should be able to not say that these stories need to be a one for one, but if I read a Batman comic, it should like feel like a Batman movie. Like there shouldn't be that big of a difference. You can play around with style and tone and stuff like that, but ultimately like it needs to have a certain tone. Like I don't want to see Batman like making bat jokes like Harley Quinn can because that fits her character. And so with the MCU, and I'm not as well versed with Marvel as I am with DC, but from what I know, like the majority of them aren't jokesters. They're not Spider-Man or Deadpool. So unless it fits their character, I want to hear jokes. You know, that's just how I feel.
But with that said, though, I will say in terms of a positive for this movie, because overall, you know, I did my non-spoiler review and shout out like Marvel Comics actually used one of my videos as
Mm-hmm.
part of their promotional campaign for Thunderbolts. So it also goes to show that I enjoyed the movie. And I wish, granted, I did give them my permission because they did ask me, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
can I get a check? Like,
Right.
or
Run my
not
money.
even for that. Hire me for something else. Like,
Yeah. I feel like
what?
you should be on there.
But I say all that to say, like, I do appreciate with this particular movie, like, yeah, you had the jokes, so like they're like a Red Guardian type of character, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they toned it back a lot
Mm-hmm.
compared to other movies, especially considering the topic of it being about depression and mental health and things like that. It wasn't a full-on joke fest like a lot of other Marvel movies tend to be. And that's something I really appreciate. Like I said, it was still jokey, but that's because of certain characters. But even in the jokes, you still felt the drama and the emotion. And, and in many ways, because I know people were like praising this movie being about mental health and everything like that. And it's like, this isn't the first time that a Marvel movie has done. Is like, hello, Wakanda Forever literally had a funeral on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I would akin this movie to not as, because Wakanda Forever was a little darker and more depressing, but I would say it's almost more akin to like Wakanda Forever. And so I appreciate that they took this tone of like mental health and depression a little bit more serious. Or even WandaVision, that also dealt with it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like Thunderbolts, even though it had humor, it didn't feel like it went out of its way to be funny. And I feel like that's the issue with some of the other movies where it feels like every other line is a joke or like a setup. And then you ultimately end up being able to like tell where a joke is going to be. And that's like my least favorite part because I should be more concerned about the story. So in Thunderbolts, I wasn't ever too distracted to think like, oh, where's the next joke coming? It's more like this is where the story is heading, and then there's some jokes along the way. And that to me is what differentiates Thunderbolt from some of the other MCU fare.
So speaking of the story and everything like that, let's actually get into the characters, because
Mhm.
Thunderbolts is a team movie and it's filled with a whole bunch of different characters. So I actually kind of want your ranking of like,
Hmm.
oh, how do you feel about all the different characters
Okay.
uh, in Thunderbolts? Let's just get this one out the way. Taskmaster.
Number one. Say
Now, granted, I personally, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm upset that they killed Taskmaster and yada yada yada. Part of me is like, if Marvel doesn't care about Taskmaster, why should I care about Taskmaster? Like, it didn't
True.
really bother me that they killed Task. Also, because I don't really care that much about Taskmaster. Like, yes, would I have preferred Tony Masters from the comics as the Taskmaster? Yes, that's the Taskmaster I would have preferred, but they gave us Antonia Yankov or whatever her name is. And like, I don't care. It's not because it's a woman versus a man, but it's because they didn't do anything with her. So like when they killed her off, I was just like, I mean, yeah, you didn't do anything. Like, granted, they could have used this movie to actually do something with her, but like, if somebody's got to go, then I guess, you know, whatever. And then maybe they might use this as an opportunity to have another Taskmaster show up. Like, I doubt it, but maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like a lot of people were upset with that version of Taskmaster. So it made sense to just use her as cannon fodder, and then hopefully maybe like down the line use like the real one. So yeah, I didn't feel really, I mean, also think that we all knew that that was going to happen because like they weren't really in the promos and they weren't like talked about.
Yeah,
So
even the photo that I got behind us was like a photoshopped in photo. Like she was not in this scene.
Yeah, so we all kind of knew. But in terms of the other characters, Bucky is my guy because like how I really got into the MCU was with Captain America. That was really the first MCU movie that pulled me in, and I know the first Avenger gets hate, but I feel like it's one of the better origin stories, especially
I
because
like a lot of people hate the first Avenger. I really like the first Avenger.
I like it a lot because mainly because like I understood who Steve Trevor was. It's like before he got the super soldier serum because I went into it.
That's that DC popping in. You said Steve Trevor. Steve
So
Trevor. That's Wonder Woman.
I've been reading Absolute Wonder Woman and I've been on a Wonder Woman kick.
Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers. Yes. Sorry. It's been a long day. Steve Rogers. They showed Steve Rogers like who he was before he got the super soldier serum. And even though like I knew of him, like I didn't know him that well and like what his story actually was. And so I just saw like, oh, this red, white, and blue star spangled guy. So I didn't take him seriously. But then when I saw like how big his heart was before he got the powers, I'm like, oh, now I understand who he is. And he's been like my favorite ever since. And so with Bucky coming in, it's like they're tied together. So I do have a soft spot for Bucky. Even when he appeared in Brave New World, like I got emotional seeing him again, like where Sam was in the story. Not to like talk about that movie instead, but that one is overhated. Not the best movie, but anyway. So Bucky, like he is my favorite, but I feel like in the Thunderbolts movie, I have to give it to Yelena because she was
Agreed.
the star and she was the emotional center of the whole film. And I loved especially her relationship with Bob because and I did a video about this too, but like he represented her emptiness. And there was something beautiful about like how she was trying to protect him and she cared for him. Like she's like this killer and she's a badass, but also she had this soft spot that she immediately felt for Bob. And that really like struck me to my core.
I get emotional every time I see Bucky too, and I'm gonna bring up this comment because this is where I'm about to go. But like, especially when he showed up in Captain America: Brave New World, and Sam was depressed. I was just like, kiss him, kiss him, kiss him. I don't know about
Bucky.
you, but I'm a Sam and Bucky shipper. Ever since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like even when they literally had them in couples therapy in Falcon.
I mean, they felt on top of each other. What did they expect us to do with that?
Rolling around. I'm like, they did every single trope of like, like if it was a heterosexual couple, they would have got together. Like even I did a video a long time ago where you know that prompt on TikTok where it's like, show me two different scenes that have the same energy or something like that. And there's a moment going back to Buffy because everything with me goes back to Buffy. But there's that moment, and since you know Buffy too, but in season 2 where Xander and Cordelia were like arguing in Buffy's basement with when they were being attacked by the Order of Taraka, and they were like yelling at each other, and it was the first time that they kissed. There was a scene just like that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier where they're like arguing and yelling. I was just like, kiss him. So like. So every time I see, and then when you get to the end of the movie, it's like, oh yeah, like they're in the divorce era because he say, I went to go try to talk to Sam, and he's like, it didn't end well. So I'm like, did they fight? Did they come to blows? Are they arguing? I'm like, no, don't argue because Sam and Bucky, you got to get together and 69 each other.
But yeah, I was definitely shipping them when that show came out because there were too many of those scenes and
way too many.
Yeah. and their relationship was just very like, even though there was tension, okay, but there was also like love underneath it because Steve Rogers was gone, and I feel like they only had each other, and it was kind of beautiful in that way. Anyways,
And they even teased that Bucky is some level of bisexual because when they mentioned he was on Tinder and he's like, I'm seeing nothing but tiger photos or whatever.
mm-hmm. True. There's
Who
enough for us to.
that was like a
I,
real life reference where like during the Tiger King or whatever thing, a bunch of
mm-hmm.
men were taking pictures with tiger photos. So if you're seeing a bunch of tiger photos on your Tinder, that means you're also swiping right on men as well. Like,
True. I mean, that's enough for me, so I believe it. So yeah, so Yelena number one, and then Bucky number two, just because he's Bucky. But then also kind of seeing him in this leadership position in terms of like inspiring the Thunderbolts into being heroes, because in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was definitely unmotivated, not really wanting to get into the game, and he was kind of like dragged into it. But now he's the person that's inspiring people. And I love that full circle moment that's happening because it feels like that piece of Steve Rogers is within him that he's like carrying forward. And because that once again happened in Brave New World, where he's the one who's giving Sam the advice that he needs at that time. So it's like Steve Rogers still feels like he's like around because of these characters. So he's number two. And then number three is probably Bob Sentry. I just really enjoy his powers. And then also, like, it's a very tragic story that he has. And I felt really bad for him that he has all these powers and yet he is like cursed with this, like with these highs and these lows and this dark side, but he has so much power. And I love the duality of his character and how they all had to go in and like save him. And it's like, also love that they brought it back down to something personal because he had those issues with his family and they all like embraced him. And they could have made it into this big, like, epic battle or something like that, but they allowed it to be this one moment in this one guy's life that they ended up being there for him. And that's what made it so beautiful, was because it was personal. So he's number three. Number four, just counting the Thunderbolts, right?
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, with the movie in and of itself. So if you want to throw in Valentina, she's technically
okay.
she's part of the Thunderbolts, kind of
Okay.
technically.
True. Maybe, you know what? Maybe Valentina. Like, okay. Because I'm kind of a John Walker hater. just based off of principle. Because here's the thing: Sam is Captain America, point blank, period. Like, and so I don't like any type of threat, and I just feel like he tarnished the shield when he did what he did. Now, if Sam did what he did, he wouldn't have all these fans behind him. You know, Loki can destroy worlds and they're fine, but Sam sues the new Avengers, and suddenly it's anti-Black City, and I don't like that. So I'm gonna I'm gonna be honest. I do have a bias towards John Walker, but I did I did like that they showed his backstory, and that once again it was something very like relatable, and that like he just didn't want to take care of his kids who were like right there. um, uh, and I like that he wasn't perfect because even though he was telling them like, oh, you guys are the ones who like have messed up lives, but I'm perfect. But in actuality, it's like he's having issues with his wife. He's not taking care of his child.
Yeah,
And I like,
that moment where Yelena was like reading him for Phil, he's like, "Oh,
mm,
is it my turn now?" She's like, "No, everybody knows you're a piece of shit." I was like,
yeah,
"Damn,
ate
damn."
him up, ate him up.
Or even when Bucky called him out in front of everybody, he was like, "Yeah, when your wife left you and took your kid," I was like, "Bucky, you ain't had to say that, not in front of
Yes, he
everybody,
did.
like, right in front of my salad." Like, dang, you could have pulled him aside and said that. Like,
Nope, he wanted it in front of everybody, and I loved it. Um, yeah, so I like that they included that for his story. Valentina also got some character development too, and they could have just kept her as like a stagnant kind of, dark-sided Nick Fury character. But I really liked how, I mean, she's always been manipulative, but this felt especially cruel because of Bob's like mental issues and her pretending to be like motherly when we know she not. But then also we get to see her backstory and see what happened like with her father. And also she had one of the like low key one of the best lines in the whole film. I'm gonna like butcher it, but it was something like, you think this is a world of like good and evil, but it's bad and worse or something like that. And it's very true. Speaking of like Star Wars, like that's kind of the theme, especially in season 2, of like the good guys having to do bad things in order to like defeat the Empire. Like a part of you almost has to like go to the dark side, and that's how like Val operates. She
I
wants
can't seem to
power.
get into Andor for some like I
Really?
tried to watch the first season and I watched the first 4 episodes. I every time I watched them, like the first 4 episodes were a struggle to get through. Every time I watch it, I keep falling asleep.
Mm. I
And,
love Andor.
and I like I can't I tried, and I just like like I just
Yeah, I
tried.
mean, it's a very like subtle show, and I feel like you really have to like be engaged with the small things because the small things matter. So if you're not in that mode of like looking at the minutia, it's probably not going to be an entertaining ride. But point is that those themes in Andor and in Thunderbolts are very similar in that like the good guys are having to cross the line and like do things. And I feel like that's how Valentina sees herself. Like she doesn't really look at her actions as bad. It's more like what she needs to do in order to gain power. And that makes her a much more fascinating character than some, mustache twirling villain who's just like, oh, she wants to like control everything. It's like, no, like considering where she was and being in such a powerless position, she never wants to be there again. And I feel like she's always been that little girl in that room looking at her father, and she never wants to be there again.
And
So she,
honestly, in many
yeah,
ways, and I said this with Fantastic Frankie, and I said that Valentina is proven to be a better Nick Fury than Nick Fury.
shots fired.
And it's true because I feel like because they're trying because and I think part of it is because they're trying so hard or they tried so hard because we don't really see Nick Fury that much anymore and we don't know if we're gonna see him again because who knows what's going on in the Captain Marvel universe. But like I don't believe for a second that if Valentina was in charge of Shield, she would have knew Hydra was in the bowels or hiding beneath the surface. She would have known and she wouldn't have cared. She'd have been like, shit got to get done. Like, I don't care. Like, they're not lashing out. They're not doing it. They're still following orders. Like, it is what it is. They might be a little racist, but like, whatever. Like, I still need shit to get done. As opposed to like Nick Fury, like just not knowing and being completely caught off guard. But then they set him up to be this all-knowing, 10 steps ahead of everyone's spy. But then when it came down to it, he really wasn't. Even when you see him in like running Saber and everything like that, it's like he just seems like the quirky uncle that you want to get to know. He doesn't seem like the spy that they set up way back when he was first introduced in Iron Man. And so
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying to do that now with Valentine. Even something like setting up a Thunderbolts. I don't think the MCU version of Nick Fury would do that.
Yeah, no. And Valentina definitely has less parameters as far as like how far she's willing to go because she would have definitely become Madam Hydra and and had no problem with Hydra being all up in Shield. At the same time,
We
it's
don't
like,
bring
and
up
perhaps
Secret Invasion was trash, but
I don't. We're not even going to get into that because I will go on a rant.
and yeah, I get he had the secret, but like, it's still like.
And I mean, perhaps this is me looking at subtext that isn't there. Sometimes I might do that, but like with Nick Fury, like I feel like he's a black man and he was kept out of rooms. And so I kind of like added that to his story of like why he didn't know what was going on. At the same time, because of that, and because you are a black man, you know how they will try to play you. And so you know to like, oh, let me like look around this corner. Even though they're saying this, they're doing that. But once again, it's like if it's not being written by a black person, like usually like they don't understand that subtext. So I was giving Nick Fury a bit more grace maybe than ostensibly he deserved. Uh, but I still like respected Nick and what he was able to. I mean, because he did put the Avengers together in the first place. So let's not downplay what he's done. And I feel like I blame the writing of Nick Fury. I mean, because look at what happened with Secret Invasion. Like that turned out to be like utter trash. It's like he hasn't really been like portrayed in the best light, and I don't think that that's Nick Fury's fault. I feel like they've like learned from their like failures with Nick Fury to make Valentina a better character.
And even with that, you would think he'd be setting up another team of Avengers, because like the Avengers are gone. He keep talking about, like, even with the whole idea of Saber, the Saber idea is to like find out if there's any threats from beyond or whatever. Like, you would think he'd try to set up another team.
Yeah,
and I think that's ultimately my biggest problem with the Thunderbolts movie in and of itself. Not so much the movie, but the framing of the MCU and where we are currently in terms of like the story. Like right now, it still feels like we're building a house.
Yes.
But right now, at this point in the MCU, the house should already be built, ready to be torn down. But it still feels like we're not even halfway done with the house yet. Like, we're just now establishing this new team of Avengers. But like after Thunderbolts, the only movie we have is Fantastic Four. And then we're not getting another movie until Doomsday. So yeah, like, they talked about the beef. They talked about the beef that's happening with these new Avengers and Sam Wilson's team of Avengers, which almost kind of seems like they're trying to rehash Civil War. But again, when are we going to see a conclusion of that? Miss Marvel is over there trying to start a team of young Avengers. We don't even know who's going to be on Sam's team of Avengers. Granted, we can speculate and assume who's going to be on his team, but we don't know. And it still feels like the MCU is building when we're almost done with phases 5 and 6. Like, Secret Wars and Doomsday are the end of the phase, and like, yet where's the story going?
Right. Yeah, and that was my concern going into Thunderbolts, was that like I didn't know, like, because Doomsday is right around the corner. Like, it's happening soon, and it doesn't feel like it's been built up properly. I feel like there's been a lot of starts and stops with this phase because like these TV shows have been having like one season, and that doesn't make it a TV show. And like they will build up something and then like never pay it off. Like all those like post-credit scenes that we don't get answers to, like don't know who the Avengers are. And that's actually what my video was about today, about people coming at Sam Wilson for suing the new Avengers. I'm like, we don't know what the current landscape of the MCU is in 14 months. Like, we don't know, because we don't even know right now what was happening in Thunderbolts. It's like, it's very much like we don't have answers. So it's hard to gauge and it's hard to judge when we don't know who's in play. Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. She could be off planet. Like, there, we have no, based off of their like last appearances, but so much can happen in a very short amount of time. So that is kind of my main complaint about this phase. And of course, they had to redirect after the whole Kang situation. So I give them some leeway. At the same time, I feel like if they had built it up better prior to everything that went down with that, we would have been in a better spot. Like, Young Avengers should have been set up a while ago. I feel like right after Endgame, they should have like been building that up. And it just feels like they do stuff, they wait to see how it does, and then they respond. But that's like 4 to 5 years down the line.
And this hasn't been confirmed. There's no release date for Doctor Strange 3. There's a rumor that it might come out in 2027, but there hasn't been any official announcement. But Secret Wars comes out in May of 2027. So yeah, they can announce move, but right now there's nothing announced between like Doomsday. The only thing that's announced right now is the Doomsday comes out next year, and then the next movie right after that is Spider-Man: Brave New World, and then
Brand New Day.
What'd you say?
Brand New Day.
Oh, I said Brave New World. We have Brave New Day, a Brand New Day, and then Doomsday comes out in 2027, but they haven't announced anything in between that, so we don't know. And then of course Ironheart comes out next month,
which they haven't been promoting. So like, you don't
they
even
haven't
know
been
how that
promoting
fits
at all. And then Wonder Man drops in December, and Eyes of Wakanda comes out in August.
Yeah, so it's hard to figure out how like the MCU is stacking up and how it's going to build to Doomsday. And I feel like, I guess like the main things are Thunderbolts / New Avengers going into Fantastic Four, because I don't see how, like, unless there's like scenes added or something, like how are these other titles going to fit into Doomsday, or just like the general overall landscape of the MCU. I feel like it's never been this like uncertain.
So like this movie, I feel like should have been, especially considering the theme and the tone of like grief and depression, everything like that. This movie would have totally worked in phase 4.
Yeah. And
considering the story that like it's literally, because phase 4 was about reestablishing and rebuilding the Marvel Cinematic Universe and about taking a deep breath and, you know, allowing characters to grieve and everything like that. So like this movie could have easily came out in phase 4 right after Black excuse me, right after Black Widow, because it is technically a spiritual successor or sequel to Black Widow. And then in many ways, this could have been the end movie for Phase 4. It ends on establishing a new team of Avengers.
Yeah, yes. No, that would have felt...
Captain America Brave New World could have been like the start of Phase 5, where now you have Sam Wilson's movie should have been about him establishing a new team of Avengers.
Yeah, that would have felt so much better on a structural level. Like, if you're absolutely right, like they ended Phase 4 with Thunderbolts, because once again, it just feels like we don't have enough information. And Sam said he was going to like start the Avengers, but like Doomsday is right around the corner, so I'm assuming that that's going to be revealed in Doomsday, and that should have been set up beforehand. And that's why it's like I don't feel like they set up these past 2 phases correctly.
Yeah, because like I said, unless they announce something after we got Fantastic Four, and we're not getting another movie until Doomsday, which is next May. When are we going to see Sam's Avengers? When are we going to see him establishing his Avengers? What about the beef that's happening between the new Avengers and the Thunderbolts? Like, when is that going to get resolved? It can't get resolved in Doomsday because that's too much story they already got to tell, especially with Tony Stark being the new Doomsday or whatever. And then also he connects to the Fantastic Four, so the beef with that, like, and then we already getting Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, yada yada, like.
Yeah, and that's why it's like Doomsday does feel like a cash grab, and I feel like they sped it up too fast, because I didn't expect Doomsday to come out this early, especially because of
what happened with Jonathan Majors. Like, if anything, like it should have been pushed back.
Yes, exactly. And then they could have like restructured it, focused on the story, because the reason why, you know, Infinity War worked was because they built it up properly. That's the one thing that I will always give the MCU. Like, as a DCU fan, I am jealous that Marvel was able to do that. But with this one, it just feels like a lot of products that they started and then we have no resolution for, or like even an understanding of like what's going to happen. Like, where's Shang-Chi? You know what I mean? It's like, what's going to happen with him? It's like,
or not even just Shang-Chi, but that post-credit scene that happened at the end of Shang-Chi, like the 10 rings were sending out a signal to somebody in space. What's happening with that? Doctor Strange was asked with Clea to go to the dark dimension to fight incursions. Don't know what's happening with that.
What's T?
It's got like a whole son with a terrible ass haircut. What's happening with that?
Yeah. Like, we just don't have any information. And like, I'm trying to, like, I got more hyped for Thunderbolts because we got some understanding of like, okay, Thunderbolts becomes New Avengers, and then the Fantastic Four comes from like a rift, probably, like possibly their world was destroyed by Galactus. I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. So it's like, I was glad to see that there was some connectivity of like going towards Doomsday, but we still just don't have so many answers to other things.
And it's because this movie was so good and did show like, you know, okay, this is the new status quo and we're building from here, that it does, you know, make me think about and open the door to like, no, there's a lot of story that they need to tell that has been left, you know, and a lot of plot holes that, or even like Billy is roaming the streets of New Jersey with Agatha looking for his brother.
Yeah.
The twins of the Scarlet Witch. We know Wanda's coming back. Was that going to get resolved? Like,
right.
Is she going to get to meet her kids? So like, there's still a lot of story that they need to tell, because we kind of know that after Secret Wars, they're basically going to just reboot. But it's like, again, there's still a lot of story to tell before you even get to the reboot part. But anyway, outside of the universe aspect of it, like which was my biggest problem with the movie, going back to Thunderbolts in and of itself and what I really enjoyed about the movie, I really like the chemistry between all of these actors and all of these characters. And funny enough, like, I know you don't like John Walker. I hated John Walker as well in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this movie actually made me like him a little bit more. I like
Traitor.
I did. I like John Walker. Now, granted, in real life, I'd be like, fuck John, because you know John Walker voted for Trump. You know,
yes. Where were you on January 6th?
You know,
where were you on January 6th? That's what I want to know.
He was
leading the charge.
John Walker was there storming the Capitol on January 6th.
We all know it. We all know it.
But in terms of like Wyatt Russell portraying him, I was like, especially like when Valentina called him like, what did she call him? Basically like Timu Captain America. That's not what she said, but
something like that. Like
it was something like that. And he was basically about to pull out his gun and shoot her in the face.
Ooh, he was triggered.
Or like even just the quips of like them messing with him, like when he when they were in the back of the van and he pulled out the gun and she's like, "Oh, it's a big gun. You like it big or whatever." Like, or like, what about the helmet? You like your helmet? He's like, "Yeah, yeah." I mean, it just like stuff like that just made me. Or even like the small moment of like when they were in the desert and even though they were still arguing with each other, he still made sure he made sure like they're all good, like they all have food. Like, hey, you want this? Like this food or whatever. Like just on like seeing his wife. I don't know. It's just little moments like that, and it's because of the strength of Wyatt Russell's acting that just made me like him more. Like I said, in real life, hell no. But in the terms, because we all like a good villain. Like I root for the Joker, I root for but they're like, I don't want like a Joker in real life or a Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is one of my favorite villains. I love me a good villain, so I still see him as a villain and an asshole. But so because of that, I like him.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to have those characters to like oppose your faves. And to be honest, like he did do a great job. Like I'm a fan of Wyatt Russell as an actor, and also his character did have a lot of great development in this movie with his backstory and then like how he is with the rest of the team. Like he does have that kind of caretaker mode in him because I feel like he wants to be seen in that positive Captain America, like good guy light. Like he wants to be the good guy, but he also wants greatness. And I just find those two concepts like and how they oppose
Yeah,
each other.
he's a straight white man that's been given everything, in his life, whatever. So like, yeah, he has that in him.
Yeah, so it's like it's really it's really nothing against him. It's more like since I know that the fan because okay, here's the thing. I remember when those first images of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and John Walker came out, and people were like, "Oh, he should be Captain America." I'm like, see, Steve Rogers gave Sam the shield, okay, and they're so
Or even
quick.
people saying, "Oh, it should have been Bucky." Like, no, Steve
Right,
Rogers gave Sam the shield.
precisely. So it's like I feel like I can give him respect in private, but in public, I'm not going to support him. That's how I feel about it.
Well, you won't see me cosplaying as John Walker anytime soon.
Right.
But so with that, in terms of like the ranking, I was going back and forth of like because Bucky, Yelena and Bucky for this particular movie, Yelena and Bucky are my 1 and 2. And then I was like, when you said number 3 is your Bob, I was like, damn, would I give Bob 3 or would I give Walker 3? So
I connect more with Bob. Like I see myself in Bob, and I think that's why.
But I love Bob.
Yeah, like, and I don't know. I also felt like weirdly protective of him. He just seemed like this sweet guy. He didn't ask for any of this. He went down the wrong road, and he's very insecure and had some issues, and he was manipulated. And so I felt very like bad for him. Um, and but I also love that duality within himself of having like all this superpower, but then having this great darkness within him as well, because it's a very like misleading thing. Everyone thinks that he's the weakest member, but he's actually the strongest. I'm like, Yelena, girl, like I don't know why you're trying to help Sentry in this moment where they're attacked. Like, you need to be helping out your team because in the blink of an eye, they can be shadows. Like so, so he does not need your help. He's like, no, stop. Like, for what? For why?
Well, speaking of Bob, and this picture isn't all that clear because it's taken from the movie, but I can't find like a clearer image. One thing I will say I was very much disappointed in this movie is this moment right here where you saw Bob was shot up, and when he got shot up, his shirt was all cut up, and you got to see like the lower part of his abs, and you got to see like them abs was popping, and you could tell he worked out, like he put in the workout routine for this movie to play the Sentry, and I was just like, I was expecting him to rip his shirt off or something. I'm like, show me the workout routine. Like, you didn't even get to see the V. I'm like, show me the V cut. Like,
not you doing gay forensics.
No, I'm like, come on now. Like, clearly he put in the work. Like, don't show me the bottom half of the ass. Show me the chesticles. Show me the V cut. Like, I want to see all of it. Like, I would say that was my biggest disappointment. If the movie got a perfect, if the movie got a perfect for me, this would have diminished it from a perfect score. The fact that we didn't get to see the V cut.
To be fair, even though I just said that, I don't know if you saw the new Mortal Kombat movie, but I felt the same way about Jax. Like the actor, he did all that bulking up for it, but then like he's like machine in the arm looks small and everything. I'm like, and we didn't see everything that he did for that role, and I felt like I didn't get my money's worth.
Makad Brooks, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he put in that work, and I just feel like we couldn't appreciate what we needed to appreciate in the more. This is a side note,
But no,
but that's just
but I feel you. I feel you.
yeah,
Like if you're gonna do it, like show me the workout routine. Like even
yeah.
like when you think about Chris Evans when he was holding the helicopter together,
Oh.
even he was like, I should probably do this scene shirtless. And Marvel was like, but why? Well, he was like, trust me. And they're like, nah. I was like, like show me the titties. I want to see the titties.
Yes, Chris Evans was my awakening.
Chris Evans understood the assignment, but Marvel
Yes.
wouldn't let him do it. But yeah, I was disappointed with that. I was like, wait, you see them abs? Like, wait a minute, take the shirt off.
Deducts 1 point for that.
Well, yeah, facts. Whatever Louis Pullman did, Sebastian Stan didn't do. No, Sebastian Stan, he's like, I've been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for 10 plus years. I'm not working out. Like, I'm a super soldier. I don't need to work out. I got superpowers. And well, speaking of, I'm like, the Dora Milaje need to pull up and take that arm back because he been disrespecting that arm. Like, you put it in the dishwasher, my dude. Like, what?
Also, where's the hate for Sentry doing that? Because they came after my girl for taking off his arm, as if she had just committed the work. Like, first of all, it was their arm.
Yeah, like I didn't hate them when they did it. I'm like, it's their arm. They need to take it back. But he getting like cheese sauce on the arm. He putting it in the dishwasher. Like, you disrespecting his arm at this point.
Yeah.
Like, they need to come take it back.
I do appreciate it though, because Sentry, I thought he was gonna sunburn, explode, supernova the arm. So I was at least glad that he had the like wherewithal to like toss it back to him. So that was actually nice. I thought it was gonna explode.
He slapped the shit out of him with that arm.
He said slap.
I was like, damn, but you got people like trying to glaze up the Sentry. It was like, oh, Sentry, because especially I have this conversation with you since you say, I mean, not you say, but I know this for a fact too, but you do know more about DC than you do know Marvel. And I'm not talking about the comics. I'm talking about the movie because we know, you know, there's difference. But like people are like, oh, the Sentry would totally take out Superman or whatever. It's like we only saw him in this one movie and this one moment. We don't know how powerful he actually is because he's fighting fucking regular ass humans.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, three of the four of them, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 3 of the 5 of them are super soldiers. So they're enhanced superhumans, but they're still regular ass humans.
Yeah.
So of course, naturally, he would appear that much more powerful. But is he really like? I want to see you fight against Carol Danvers and see your strength up compared to that, or Thor or the Hulk. Like, so for people's like, oh, he could easily take out Superman. We don't know that. We don't know that yet because we haven't seen enough of him.
No, he can't. I'm just gonna put it like, I mean, I'm just gonna put it like that because first of all, like we have to talk about like where people are mentally. If he was in a better place where he can be like strategic and like know what he's doing and be in control of his powers, then we can talk. Because Superman, he can throw down, and people take him for granted because he holds back when he fights. People constantly forget that. He can demolish almost all of his villains if he wanted to. Aside from like Darkseid and Doomsday, you know, where he has to give it everything, he's holding back. So I feel like Sentry, even with his powers, is still very much out of his league because he's not battle ready. He's not battle tested like Superman is.
It's the same thing with Spider-Man. Like people don't realize how powerful Spider-Man actually is because he's holding back a lot. Like I remember that moment in the Superior Spider-Man where Doc Ock took control over his body. And he like punched a villain and like the jaw like snapped off. And he's like, oh shit. So you mean to tell me he's been holding back this? Like, yes, he's fighting regular. Like if Spider-Man punched somebody in the head with his full strength, their head would explode. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because like he has spider strength in proportion to like a human man. So it's like however strong a spider is, he is times that in human form.
Funny enough, Will, I was thinking the same thing after I saw the movie the second time. I was like, when Bob became, I was like, his hair wasn't blonde anymore. I was like, how does that work? Like, the power diminishes from you. It also diminishes the blonde. Like, he should have still had the blonde hair, but I guess that was their way of showing he's back to normal. I don't know, whatever.
I think it's like a Super Saiyan situation.
I guess.
Dwarf.
When he turns into the
His
Sentry,
upgrade calls the
when he
bots.
turns into the Sentry, his hair glows.
Exactly. That's Sentry Saiyan
Okay,
1.
so that's the canon. When he's regular Bob, he has
Mm-hmm.
regular hair. When he turns into the Sentry, he
Mm-hmm.
goes Super Saiyan.
Like Goku has the black hair, then it goes Super Saiyan. It gets longer. So the stronger he gets, the longer it gets.
Yeah, and also his clothes change. He goes back to wearing pajamas.
Exactly.
Coming out of
Exactly.
coming out of the void.
Mm-hmm.
But so let me see. So with that, so actually let's talk more about Bob and the like depression angle of the story. One thing that I do, this is something that I kind of rolled my eyes with at first, the first time I saw the movie, the fact that the movie ended, you know, this super powerful godlike creature, and the way they took him out was a hug. I was like, really, this is how we're gonna end the movie.
As long as it wasn't a dance, I'm good.
I mean, you talking about like Guardians of the Galaxy? I was thinking Venom. I was thinking Venom: The Last Dance.
Well, I didn't even see that one.
That was terrible. Don't see.
I couldn't bring myself to see it.
But no, but I was just like, I literally rolled my eyes in the theater. I was just like, this is stupid. But the second time after I saw it, I was like, actually, I kind of appreciate it not ending on like a giant CGI masturbation fest or whatever. Kind of like one of my biggest criticisms was like Shang-Chi. I hated that Shang-Chi ended on that big ass dragon fight. I was like, no, it should have been a fight between him, his sister, and his father.
Mm-hmm.
And their father. Like, that's how it should have ended. And then maybe he sees the error of his ways and all that other stuff, not this CGI fuckfest. And that seemed like Marvel tends to be their security blanket, where they just have the big CGI ending. And that's kind of like what She-Hulk made fun of at the end, which a lot of people, don't bring up She-Hulk. People start raging, but they made fun of that. So it's like after the second time, I was like, I appreciate it. But then also when you think about it even more, it's like, what could they have really done? Like, could they have actually fought Bob? No, they couldn't have.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I personally like that they chose to go a more personal angle with it because of the nature of the story and what it was saying about depression and mental health. And also felt like they were alone in their pain together. And that's what I loved about it. It's like they thought that they were alone, but then they like realized that they all have these issues that they had to confront, and they can help each other, because you feel alone when you're dealing with depression or whatever issues that you have, but you're actually not. And so by them embracing Bob the Void, they were embracing their emptiness. My only issue that I had with it was that, and this was just due to timing, I'm sure, but like we didn't get to see.
I actually know what you're about to say, but like they could have added 15 more minutes to the movie.
Yes, exactly. Like we should have seen like, oh, what's Ghost's backstory? What's US agents? Like John Walker, like what's his room like? What's his past like? Same thing with Bucky. And like of course, once again, this was really Yelena's movie mostly. So
and Red Guardian, like what is his trauma? All of them.
Exactly.
All of them.
Yeah. Everybody. And so like, and that's what I said in my review, was that I didn't feel like I got a full character arc for everybody. And I know how difficult it is to do a team movie because you have so many different characters that you have to juggle, which is why they like essentially chose to focus on Yelena for the most part. And they did such a great job with that. But then everyone else kind of came to her just like, oh yeah, ours was bad too. But like we don't actually get to see it. So it's like,
it's like screenwriting 101. Show me, don't tell me.
Precisely.
Even like Bucky's trauma. Granted, we know a lot about Bucky's trauma. We've seen a lot of it, but there's also a lot that we haven't seen.
Yeah, precisely.
There's like 100 plus years of trauma or brainwashing of him being the Winter Soldier that we don't get. Granted, we don't need to know all 100 years, but it still would have been better to seen him having to confront what he's done as the Winter Soldier. Same, like you said, same thing with Ghost, especially more so Ghost and Red Guardian. I would say those are the two that we really needed to see, because we saw some of it with John Walker, with like even with like Falcon and Winter Soldier, where he did the wife leaving him when he touched Bob at the beginning of the episode. But like we haven't seen Ghost since Ant-Man and the Wasp. So what she's had to go through, how'd she get that suit to control her powers and everything like that? Where has she been? Has she talking to Lawrence Fishburne in this whole time, which is her father? Like, so what's going on with that? So I would also say, like, out of all the characters, she's, besides Taskmaster, but like I don't even consider Taskmaster to be in this movie, but she's the one I connected the least to, because we don't really know anything about her.
Yeah, they didn't really build up her character, and I feel like if they added a few minutes just to like show them going through things, even with Bucky, we can see like a certain scene from his life that we haven't seen before that will give him more context to understand who he is and like a dark corner that's within him that he hasn't been able to like unpack yet. Like that would have done so much to like make it feel more complete. Overall, like the movie was a success, but that was my only issue with the ending. Like the whole like sentimentality like worked for me because of what the theme was. And it worked by everyone coming together and embracing Bob in that moment.
But I'm kind of wondering now that Bucky's part of the new Avengers. So is he not a congressman anymore?
No,
You can't do both.
no. Like was he really ever a congressman? Like I feel
I
like
mean,
I feel like
technically,
I
he
mean
was
yeah,
elected.
like
He was elected.
technically
I don't know
he
where that
was,
came from. Because
but
even like Falcon and Winter Soldier, he didn't bring up any type of aspirations or wanted to run for Like, where did that come from? Like, we need superheroes. You need to be fighting the good fight, like instead of running for Congress. Because really, as one single congressman, you ain't really got that much power. Like
yeah, no.
you got people like a Bernie Sanders and an AOC, but unless the Congress is filled with Bernie Sanders and AOCs, like look how long Bernie Sanders has been in office and really not any of the shit that he wants has gotten done because he's been the only one screaming, $15 minimum wage, and we need to have universal health care.
Great impressions.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't matter if he's been right on all the issues. Like we shouldn't have gone to the war in Iraq, and I voted against it. And even though Hillary Clinton has been in office, it's not about the experience. It's about the judgment. And I think I have the best judgment. It didn't matter. We still went to war because you're just one vote. So like Bucky having, the one vote, like you don't really have any power. You have more power as the Winter Soldier and enacted more change as the Winter Soldier. And especially knowing all the stuff that's happening around the world, like even him, like team up with your boyfriend, Sam, the two of you should have came together. Pun. And but also not just come together in that way, but come together to create a new team of Avengers.
Yeah, and also because I feel like that's what Matt Murdock learned in Daredevil Born Again. Like he tried the whole like, oh, being a lawyer, but the place is corrupt. It is a plague. It is toxified. It's like you're gonna do more like positive change. You're gonna create more change by actually being Daredevil and being out in those streets and beating people up. So I feel like even though Bucky was a congressman, it's like his heart didn't seem like he was fully in it because he knew that he had to do something more and actually get involved. And that's why like the Thunderbolts was this mixed blessing for him.
Yeah, even with like the speech that he goes like, what do you think about such and such happening? It's like, yeah, we need to get on it. Yeah, his heart really didn't seem in it, which kind of makes me go, then why did you run? Like, who convinced you to run? That's something that we also don't know. Who convinced you to run? Why did you run if you really didn't seem to be, in it? Because even when he was doing like the politics with like trying to give Val and everything like that, he didn't want to. When it was like, oh, you need to read the packet, you have to do the committee. He was like, committee, like he didn't want to seem to be in Congress. He wanted to do things the Winter Soldier way. So it's like, then why did you even run?
Exactly. Same thing with Matt. It's like he always had that call to be Daredevil, and I feel like they're cut from the same cloth in that way, and that's why I knew I'm like Bucky, just go back to being Winter Soldier. It's like, and we don't know why like he chose to be a congressman, and I would have liked to have seen that, but ultimately I feel like he ended up where he was supposed to be. Even though like I want more context in terms of Sam and Bucky's relationship, like how much does Sam know about this situation, like with the new Avengers and everything, because we just need more context before we can like try to place blame.
Well, I mean, they said he knew because like he said he spoke to Bucky or he spoke to Sam and the conversation didn't go well. And they said Sam is trying to sue them for the name of the Avengers.
Right.
So like he knows something.
Right. But like in terms of like Valentina's connection to it, like does he know that she's like essentially just a figurehead position because Yelena whispered in her ear that they owned her, so like they're not really working for. It's like those specific details because I just feel like we're missing out on important information.
But yeah, but to address this comment from Rachel, it almost feels like Bucky became a congressman to take down Val, but they didn't follow through. I don't think he needed to be a congressman to do that. Like he could have just maybe had a congressman on retainer and found some evidence and like gave like here, like kind of like what they did with the male character. Like here's the evidence that I found on Valentina. go use it. Like
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't need to be a congressman for that.
Yeah, and I don't think that it fits his skill set. Like that's not his like nature. Like he is a soldier, and that's where he like shines the best.
Especially like the idea of like, even when you think about when the people were like asking him, the reporters were asking him questions, and he like didn't really seem like he could
Mm-hmm.
talk for whatever reason. But I'm like, yeah, to run for Congress, you got to go through debates, you got to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, speak at town halls and all this other stuff. And I'm like, and granted, Bucky still has the name recognition of being
Mm-hmm.
a former Avenger, being the Winter Soldier, but also like, my dude, you also were behind the assassination of Kennedy, like within the MCU. So like, I'm still curious of like how he became a congressman, but
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. I don't
Yeah.
know. We're never going to get any follow through with that. And then technically, like I said, he's not, well, like you said, he's not a congressman anymore now that he's part of the new Avengers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's over.
But what else to say? I was disappointed that Yelena wasn't sad after Taskmaster's death, since it was her big sister's moment to save Taskmaster. I mean, that's also something that I mentioned earlier. I was like, I feel like if Marvel doesn't care about Taskmaster, why should I? Because like, yeah, they really threw that character away. Because yeah, it was Natasha's before, you know, not her dying wish, but like one of her last things that she did before she officially died was to save her, because she wasn't technically a bad person. She was brainwashed and a tool for the Red Room for all her life. And so, yeah, for her to go out like that, it did kind of suck. But like I said, if Marvel doesn't care, then I guess why should I?
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Like more could have been done with Taskmaster, but I mean, it's hard for us to even get like main characters like stuff like for their
Yeah,
stuff
we
to.
haven't even seen Shang-Chi yet, and he's a
That's
main
the
character.
thing.
So
I
yeah,
have to like
I guess with
pick and
that.
choose my battles.
But one thing I do wish, and obviously hindsight is 2020, and they didn't know they were going this route, yada yada yada. But I do wish that, especially considering this movie was mostly about Yelena and Yelena grieving and feeling lonely and all this other stuff, I wish we got to see more of Natasha and Yelena's relationship, so that when she's mourning the death of Natasha, yes, we as the audience are mourning Natasha as well, because we saw Black Widow in a lot of the movies from Iron Man 2 on up, and saw her with all the Avengers movies and everything like that. But we're mourning Natasha, but not necessarily mourning the loss of these two sisters. So like, it would have been nice if we got to see at least maybe 2 Black Widow movies with the 2 of them or whatever. So then that way we're like mourning, where Yelena's also mourning, we as the audience are mourning with her, as opposed to like, she's crying and being so, and granted, I get that's her sister, but also I'm like, bitch, you ain't see her in like almost 20 something years. Like,
But I also feel
you don't
like
got no relationship with this sister, this person you call a sister, like literally no
this person you
relationship.
call it the disrespect, not this person you call a sister.
But like,
Okay, but here's how I see it. Like I feel like it's more tragic because this whole like family relationship is built on a lie, but it's a lie that they like she has held on to because that's all that she had. That's like not having a family. You only had like this fake family that was like Russian spies. You were
even
like,
Natasha said at Age of Ultron, she was like, I don't have a family, I don't have nobody.
yeah,
What do you mean?
exactly.
Come to
But it's
find out,
like,
she got a whole family.
but like that's the whole thing because like it wasn't for like you're a family because you're a family, not because you are like controlled by the state in order to infiltrate another country and take it down. It's like so that's what makes it actually interesting for me and why I find Yelena so fascinating as a character is because she's the one, unlike Black Widow, that like really cares about this family because this is the closest thing that she had to a family. So even though like Black Widow like went on and did her Avengers thing, like Yelena was still stuck in that same place. And even though it was like unreal, it was real for her. It was the realest thing that she had. And that makes it like almost sadder. Cause like if you no matter like your family dynamics, like you still have a family. Like might not be the best situation, but like it's a family. Whereas like hers was like built on a lie. And that makes it sad, but also makes it beautiful because they like have to fight harder. So when, you know, Red Guardian calls her daughter, that is so meaningful to her because anybody else would take that for granted, but for her, that was something that was taken from her. So I didn't mind that we didn't get too much information, because the whole point of her story is to like be without family, without like all this time, like, because they didn't even spend that much time together. So that made it tragic, and that's why I liked it.
And shout out to Florence Pugh. Like when she was like, "Daddy, I'm so alone," I said, "No, come here. I want to hug you."
She was acting.
Yes, she was. She was definitely acting. I could tell, like, from her crying, that gave more for David Harbour, because like David Harbour was starting to like really start the ball, and I think that had to do with that. But yeah, white man crying about Taskmaster made that happen. The fan service. I mean, maybe because people did hate. People hated.
Oh yeah,
Antonia instead of Anthony. But I'm just like, if you're gonna do it. Like, but I guess in this way, there goes to show, because somebody made the point of like they needed to kill somebody, and out of all the characters, Taskmaster is the one people care about the least. But I'm like, did people really care about Ghost?
I don't think so.
I guess to make it different, Ghost is technically the only one that has like other powers outside of being just a super soldier. So I guess in that standpoint, somebody was like, it makes the point to show that these people are murderers. These people are terrible people. So to show one of them had to die. But I'm like, but we kind of already seen that. We saw John Walker murder somebody in Winter. So we already saw everything that, or Yelena being gone through the Red Room and being a Black Widow. So we know Bucky was a terrible person and everything like that. Ghost was one of the villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we know they're bad people. So we didn't necessarily need to see Taskmaster get got to get that message.
I think we probably needed to see something just to reestablish that, hey, these aren't like reformed people. And I feel like they wanted to raise the stakes.
They could have raised the stakes by having that little girl stay dead. Because like when that little girl, because like that had a genuine, I don't know about your theater, but my theater was like, oh shit, like they were shocked. And I feel like if they didn't reverse that, that would have just, I feel like that would have also raised the stakes a lot. Like,
but I think if they had done that, then there would be less love for Bob, because like, even though like, yes, he was in his void mode,
but it also wasn't Bob though. Like think about all the people Bucky killed. It wasn't Bucky.
True.
He killed T'Challa. I mean, well, he didn't kill T'Challa. I mean, not T'Challa. I was about to say T'Chaka, but no, that wasn't him. That was Red. That was what's his face. So never mind. I take that back. That was Baron Zemo.
True. But yeah, I just feel like for the context of the movie, because I mean, I saw it.
Think about it from like an angel perspective,
because it was too sweet.
Because I'm like, oh,
she's gonna turn into a shadow. But I don't know. I don't think that, because then like everyone would have to die. But then okay, here's the thing. It would be harder to sell this team if like they're like, oh yeah, this being turned everyone into shadow, and now he's gonna be part of the new Avengers. And like those people died. Like no matter what like situation, what scenario that was, I'm like, oh, I don't trust him, take him down. So it's easier if like the people came back.
But do people know it's him though? Because when they saw him, he was in nothing but shadow form. So they didn't see, you can't see his face. He basically looked like a Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. So they didn't see it.
I would have put it together.
I'm like, they could spin it in a way that like, no, we don't know what the hell that was. Or like, even think of it from like an Angel Buffy perspective. And Angel killed Jenny Calendar, but it wasn't him. It was Angelus. So like, even the Void isn't him. It's a part of him, but it's not necessarily him. Same thing with like
Bucky. Yeah, I mean, like we know that, but in the real world, people aren't gonna like differentiate. Like, oh, it's okay because like the Void did it, and I feel like with Bucky, like people don't know that Bucky like got JFK, because then I feel like that would be a different story.
No, but they know he worked for Hydra though,
right?
Because he even said to what's her face, like when he spoke to Mel, he's like, if you know who I am, then you know my story, and I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. It's true.
Although I will say, I was like, when because I leaned over to Frankie when the Void was like taking over all of New York, I was like, see, this shit don't happen in Jersey. That's why you need to move because right when the Void, it stopped when it got to that river. I was like, see, it didn't want no smoke. It didn't want no smoke from Jersey. Didn't want no smoke. Not from Jersey. So moral of the story is come to Jersey because we don't have shit like this happening over here.
True. I mean, I'm from Delaware, so I'm definitely safe.
So you're close. You're close.
I'm protected by Jersey.
It's interesting. Bob doesn't remember the void, yet Bucky and Yelena have to remember everything they did. That is true. They did kind of let him off the hook in a certain and to an extent, but also at the same time, like it kind of feels like a multiple personality disorder type of thing. And so when you have an alter, you don't know what your alter does. So I think that's how they're treating it. So it's like he still has the trauma, but it's just like if you ever watch like United States of Terror, which did you ever watch United States of Terror?
Yeah, that's really good.
I hated that show got canceled. I love United States of Terror, but every time her alters did something, she didn't know what they did, and that's I feel like that's basically what the void is. It is an alter, whereas Bucky and Yelena, it's not necessarily an alter. They were brainwashed, but it was still them. So but Bob did get let off the hook a little bit, but he did. But that's the Marvel thing. They let Wanda off the hook.
He's been through a lot of trauma.
Wanda never went to jail with all the shit that she did with the people in Westview.
Yeah, that was messed up.
They do that. They do that a lot. Like these people, they don't go to jail.
They get put on superhero teams.
Pretty much, or they get. I don't know. I was gonna say the Darkhold and get to kill a bunch of people, and she's because we know Wanda's not dead. She's gonna come, but she's gonna come back. So who knows?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? Oh, the post-credit scenes. Let's talk about the post-credit scene. What do you think about the post-credit scene, which turns out to be the longest post-credit scene ever? We're skipping to the second post-credit. The first post-credit scene, who cares? Unless you have something to say about that.
No, I mean, no. We can talk about the second one because that was good. And I liked how it was set up. Because first of all, when the spaceship came, Fantastic Four is like, I thought, and this is probably because like X-Men is on my brain. I thought it was the X-Men. I'm like, oh snap, this is how they're coming, but no, it was fantastic.
As long as they can with the X-Men. Well, hold on real quick. Why does Bob get a hug and Wanda gets banished? Feels like Wanda could have used that. Monica tried to hug Wanda in several episodes, and what did she do? She threw microaggression. She threw Wanda out of the whole ass hex. Like, at least Bob was actively trying to fight his depression or whatever, like fighting the void. But Wanda, every time Monica tried to pull up, she was like, "You black bitch." No, she ain't say all that. Like, that's what it was giving. That's definitely what it was giving. Anytime she
don't touch me.
Wanda knew exactly. That's why I'd give Wanda less grace. Because, like, yes, she was going through depression, but she knew what she was doing at every step of the way. It wasn't like she didn't know. Like, even when she created the hex, she did it unknowingly and she didn't know what she did. But then once she figured out what she was doing, she kept it. Like that moment in episode 4 where she walked out of the hex and confronted the police or confronted Sword and everything like that. I was like, oh, so she knows exactly what's happening. And she doesn't give a fuck. Like, she's torturing and brainwashing these people and don't care. Like, at first I was like, oh, well, she doesn't know. Like, whatever. It's like she doesn't realize that she's so caught into her mental break, like she just thinks this is normal. When you found out, like, no, this isn't. No, even when the people confronted her, it was like, she's like, no, you're not. I didn't mean for, like, whatever. Like, no. That's why I give Wanda less grace than at least Bob. Bob didn't know and he couldn't control it. And then when he found out, he actively did try to fight it. It wasn't until Wanda got confronted by all the people in town and then her white woman tears started falling out. That's when she was like, you know what? I'll reverse it. And then Monica is just like, they'll never know what you sacrificed. Get the fuck out of here. That's one of the things I hated about the ending of WandaVision. Like, no. But anyway, no, I had to get that rant out of the way.
I can see.
But yeah, post-credit scene.
But yeah, so I mean, like, my kind of focus is on X-Men, but it makes sense for it to be Fantastic Four with the movie coming up, and it made me think that now, like, maybe Galactus gobbled up their world, and like maybe Galactus is actually gonna win, and that's why they were escaping, and they're coming to this world to be like, yo, y'all need to buckle up, because he's still hungry. And also, like, I think that there's incursions happening, and that's like the crisis in space.
But yeah, that's the thing about like the post-credit scene. I was like, it's cute. Like I wasn't as hyped. Like I remember somebody was like, "Oh, make sure you watch the post-credit scene. It changes everything." And I was like, "Does it though?" Like we already knew Fantastic Four is the next movie. We already knew that was coming.
I mean, but it wasn't confirmed that they were going to be coming to, I mean, obviously with Doomsday and everything, but like how it was going to happen. Like, and that's like, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but considering like right now we're like, I don't know where the story is going heading towards Doomsday, like with the Avengers, with all these characters, it's like, that's what it felt like for me. Like I got some sense of like understanding of where things are heading. Like Thunderbolts are the new Avengers. Fantastic Four is now in the MCU. So it's not the biggest revelation, but considering like the state that the MCU is in, which is a very like unknown state, this felt like it was big because of that.
And even with that, it's kind of like, oh well, I guess spoilers for the Fantastic Four movie. We know what's gonna happen here. Like,
yeah, we just don't know how it's gonna happen.
You know, we don't know how, yeah. But we see what's gonna happen at the end.
Yeah.
But one thing I am curious of is like, because we see with the Fantastic Four coming, are they coming because they're trying to escape? Because like Galactus takes out their world, or are they coming to try to fight against Doom? Like, what are the circumstances of them coming to this universe? That's one thing I'm curious about.
Yeah, like really, because after I saw the post-credit scene, it made me think of the trailer again. Because something that I really focused on, because like Fantastic Four First Steps to me looks really good. Like I love the tone, the retro futurism, all that stuff.
I hope it's good.
I feel like it's gonna be, but also like my bar like might be like a little low because as I said, like as long as it's not annoying MCU humor and they like give it its own style and flavor and like tell a good story, I'm probably gonna be happy. But what I really noticed was that they have such a focus on the world of the Fantastic Four, and by that I mean like how the team is seen as celebrities in this world. Like you really get a sense of like the environment, and that sets the tone. And I feel like it's gonna be really its own character. Like as you see like the kids going towards those TV sets in the window, and you just get this sense that like they are exalted as these like celebrities essentially. And that made me think of like how devastating it'll be if and when like Galactus like destroys this world, and that could be why they're doing it, is to like really have your heart connect to this world, so it's not just some, oh, they're on Earth and these people, like no, it's like they have a special connection to Fantastic Four. Then because of Reed Richards, he said something like, you know, he reached too far and they noticed or something like that. And that made me think of like maybe that's what he's referring to. And like if he's the cause of the destruction that Galactus comes and brings, and then he leaves the world with his team and then comes to the main MCU, and he's like, this is what you need to look out for. That's where like my mind is heading based on like the story structure.
Yeah, and somebody said we could see Avengers versus New Avengers, but I'm like, but when though? Well, there's no time for that. Like the next movie
and who?
Yeah,
and
the next
how?
movie is Doomsday, and then we can't have the Avengers and the New Avengers fighting each other because they got to take out Doomsday, and then the rumor is he might have his team like since Stark is Doomsday, because they said, I think they announced Captain America is coming back. More than likely he's going to play Captain Hydra. Everything like, so they're probably going to do a Dark Avengers version where they're evil. The original A6 are going to be evil versions of themselves. So it's like we don't have time for like a new event, and especially considering like they're beefing with each other, because they mentioned at the end of this episode, well, this movie, that like Sam is suing them, and he tried to talk to Bucky, tried to talk to Sam, and it didn't go well. So like clearly there's tension and beef between the Avengers and the New Avengers, but there's no time for it. And then also, where the hell was Spider-Man at? Like, New York was being torn down. He couldn't swing by and catch a bill. Kingpin is the mayor. What does he think about this New Avengers thing going on? Where at least have him on a monitor movie screen or whatever saying, God damn it, like this is exactly why.
No vigilantes.
Yeah, no vigilantes.
Well, Vincent D'Onofrio said that Kingpin can't appear in movies. So I don't know what type of like contractual issue he has, but I feel like that's a part of the reason why. But the other ones
Well, that would suck
could.
because I would like to, because he's one of the main. He's one of Spider-Man's. Also, granted, he's mostly associated with Daredevil, but he's also really associated with even in the Spider-Man video game. It opens with him taking out Kingpin.
Yeah, and I like he is a main Spider-Man villain. And I feel like he could have added a lot of like connectivity and gravitas to the story. So hopefully they can like fix that situation because I feel like it'll just make it feel more expansive.
But one last thing, talking about Fantastic Four, one of my biggest gripes about Fantastic Four is the casting of Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. And first of all, that wig is terrible. Like it gives me Jessica Alba in the 2000s.
That's what they're going for.
Fantastic Four with the contacts and terrible blonde wig, and she looked terrible like that. And also like the way they're portraying his character. And not to say that Joseph Quinn is unattractive. I don't think he's unattractive, but he doesn't give me Johnny Storm on this type of time in terms of like being a sex symbol where he would show up in the Antarctic in nothing but some flaming hot shorts and some flaming cowboy like boots. Like you see my screen? I'm like, I don't see Joseph Quinn, his character, being on this type of time as Johnny Storm. And that is quintessentially like the Johnny Storm character. Like where he kind of feels like the only thing that he has to offer is his looks. And then also like speaking of that, like for considering the type of character Johnny Storm is, like anytime I see him, like I should be pre-coming in the screen, like literally just like dripping down my leg because I'm just like, God damn, he is so fine. And I don't really get that from Joseph. I'm like, he's not having me leak.
I love the picture that you painted with that. It was beautiful.
We're very vivid here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel.
I see. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When Chris Evans was Johnny Storm, that changed my life.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell you that much. If I wasn't gay before, I was definitely.
Even Michael B. Jordan. Granted, I hated Fan Four Stick, but Michael B. Jordan is fine. Michael bust all over me, Jordan. That's what the B stands for. Like, so you got 2 for 3.
But here's the thing. I keep an open mind when it comes to these things, and if they can sell it with the version that they're doing, because like that's how I feel about Penguin. Like, look at the Penguin HBO series. It's like he's not Colin Farrell's height. He's a short, squatty, round man.
But he's still like, but in terms of like the characterization, like he's the
Penguin. Right, exactly. And so they altered some things, but it suited the story. So even though it's like Joseph Quinn isn't my first pick, I'm going to keep an open mind to see what they do with the story.
So with Rachel, the actor specifically asked not to be a sex symbol womanizer. Then don't play Johnny Storm, because granted, he doesn't have to be a womanizer, but his like the sex symbol aspect, that is his character. That is. So tell me you want to play Johnny Storm tell me you don't want to play Johnny Storm without telling me you don't want to play Johnny Storm. Like in many ways, from the trailer, he seems like the little bumbling little teen, and it's like, how many of those? We already got that with Miss Marvel. We already got that with Peter Parker. Like, give me a different type of younger. He's not that much younger, but give me a different type of character.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not given sex symbol. And that is what I think of when I think of Johnny Storm.
But the whole point is to see the evolution of him, like him becoming a member of the Fantastic Four is what allows him to start to change and to see more of himself and different of himself. Now, granted, he still has that sex symbol, or as a friend of mine will call him, he has a whole series about this. He's still community dick, like to the point that he slept with Dr. Doom's wife, causing Dr. Doom was about to give up being a villain for this woman that he married, only to find out that his wife cheated on him with Johnny Storm. So like he still has that, like that's Johnny Storm right there. Like granted, they could take away the womanizing aspect of it, but him being community dick that's Johnny Storm.
So he's the reason why we have One World Under Doom.
He's the reason we have One World Under Doom. Because Dr. Doom was willing to give up and have a truce with the Fantastic Four, give up villainy and all this other stuff until his wife was like, I can't marry you without coming clean. I had sex with Johnny Storm, and I was just like, oh, shit.
Could have said flame on instead of hard on. That was the issue.
Facts. But yeah, so that's the one. Now, granted, I don't, from an acting standpoint, because Joseph Quinn is a good actor. I thought he was great in Gladiator, Stranger Things. Yeah, I think he's going to do good from an acting standpoint. It's just that's when I see him, I'm just like I'm not leaking. That's really my biggest.
Yeah, I mean he's not giving.
On the other hand,
he's not giving Johnny Storm, but I try to keep an open mind when it comes to these things and like the creator's vision, and like once I see it, I'll decide after that.
Yeah, but Pedro Pascal, on the other hand,
that's a different story. Now he is the hottest Reed. Pedro Pascal has never not been hot. That's the thing. Like from Game of Thrones, that's when I first knew.
That's when I first knew. Which, funny enough, I first saw him in Buffy, but I didn't know who he was.
Me too. Yeah.
And then I went back. I was like, wait, that was him, Eddie. That was Pedro. What?
Yeah. I didn't know him back then either. But when he was on GOT. I would have been a part of his little group.
And that's the thing, like the hair makes it so much worse. Like, yeah, that wig looks terrible. But yeah, no, I would have been in that harem with Omer and Martell too. Like,
absolutely.
When he was like, I like this and I like this. I said, slap my ass, daddy.
Say less.
Say less. But anyway, that's really all we got. I don't have nothing else unless there's something that you could think of or maybe that I might have missed.
No, I'm good. I think we covered a lot of ground.
So yeah, so that's our thoughts on Thunderbolts. I need to see the latest episode of The Last of Us. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it yet.
It's very good. Very lesbian.
Okay, because that was one of my biggest complaints that I feel like I was like, why do I feel like that? Because have you played the game? Because I was like, I feel like, why do I feel like they're toning down Ellie and Dina's relationship?
I mean, they are, but it does at least progress. I'll let you see it to like see for yourself, but I feel like it does progress. So there's that. Especially
considering like this show praises itself on being like a beat for beat adaptation of the game. And I'm like, by this point in the game, Ellie and Dina had already scissored each other. And it's like, but they had like by this, like, but they haven't yet. But so, yeah. So you telling me that I'm like, okay, so maybe my concern got answered. But what did it say? My biggest gripe, no POC on the cast. Huge mistake not letting Lakeith Stanfield as the Silver Surfer. I mean, well, Pedro Pascal is a POC. He's a person of color. He's Colombian or Guatemalan or he's brown. I don't know where he's from, but we got a brown Reed Richards. And as far as Silver Surfer, again, we don't know what's going to happen once they come into the 616. Because, like, yeah, they might have Shala Ball. Maybe I think that might be who she is as the Silver Surfer. But once we come into the 616, we might get Norman Rad. And it could be a black Silver Surfer. Because granted, when they portrayed him in like the Fantastic Four animation, that he was brown. And then plus, when you think about Silver Surfers, and I made this joke on another podcast that I was on, but I'm like, when you think about Silver Surfer's origin, I'm like, he's basically a runaway slave. Like he's trying to escape Galactus. He was Galactus's slave for eons, and then he tried to run away. And when you think about, you know, sometimes when some of these black people, which I'm not gonna, you know, but it was a white woman that made him, you know, see the error of his ways or whatever, try to do good. And I'm like, all right, that gives me Hotep.
Not Hotep Surfer.
Hotep Surfer, yeah. So that's one thing I'll be like, if they make him black, I'm like, oh, he changes his ways because of Sue Storm, a white woman. I'm like, all right. I don't know if I like that direction.
Maybe it's because of Pedro Pascal. Maybe it's because of Reed Richards. They can switch it up.
It won't be. Like, you know, I'm always making black and make it black or make it gayer, but it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Even Captain Marvel and Valkyrie, like they teased of them being in a relationship, and it's like it went nowhere.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. Like, share, comment, interact for the all gay rhythm. Also, guys, I do have a Patreon. HTTPS www.patreon.com/BlackGayComicGeek. You get more exclusive connection and behind the scenes to me and my life and my journey as a content creator. I also have a series on there called Shit Michael Hasn't Seen But Owns on Blu-ray. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I got mad Blu-rays on my shelf. I could turn my camera, mad Blu-rays on my shelf that I just own and have never seen. So the series is me watching and reacting to the movies for the very first time, getting my live reaction, like Alien, the first Alien movie, or any of the Alien movies. I have the entire trilogy right here. Never saw it. So the first episode was me watching the very first Alien movie, reacting to that. Ethan's going to get mad at me with this because I'm about to bring up another one. Do I have the Blu-ray right in front of me? No, I don't have it right in front of me. But Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Never saw it.
Wow.
Even though, like, I was born in 85. So when that movie came out in 93, I was like 7 or 8. I can't do the math, whatever. But like, I was there watching Batman, the animated series, when it first came out. And I've had the Blu-ray and I've heard everybody told me that it was good, but then I never saw it. So that was episode 2. Episode 3 is going to be Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer. I have them with Chris Evans. I have the movie, never saw it, but that's going to be episode 3. I also have a video called From the Living Room to the Red Carpet, where I detail my journey of like why I became a content creator, how I became a content creator, how I get early screenings for movies and TV shows, how I get invited to red carpets and what I do and everything like that. I have another video up of like how I get Netflix screenings and things like that. You can see all of that behind the scenes. I show you the emails and what I do and everything like that. You can see all of that on the Patreon and other content that we'll be slowly unveiling because it is pretty new. So there's not a lot up there because it's only been up less than a month, but there is content up there and more will be evolving. You get to vote on my Discord. We have conversations. I went live with my patrons, just an exclusive live. Right now, there's only 4 of us, 4 and growing. So I appreciate the 4 patrons. So we went live together, just the 4 of us, had a good time, talked about whatever we wanted. And so you get access to that. Also at a certain tier, if I get invited to a red carpet and you're on that tier, you're now in the running to potentially be my date to come join me on a red carpet. So if I get a Fantastic Four screening, or if I get an invite to the Fantastic Four red carpet and you're one of my patrons, you might be on that red carpet with me. Granted, you got to get to New York, New Jersey, because hopefully it's going to be in New York. But you got to get, if you're like from Delaware, for example, you got to get to New York. I'm not paying for your flight, but yeah, you get to be my +1 for the red carpet. So yeah, check out the Patreon, support your boy. Again, support your local gay economy, www.patreon.com/BlackGayComicGeek. So with that, like, share, comment, interact for the all gay rhythm. Follow Virgo Blade, follow Ethan. But before I go, Ethan, tell the people what you got coming up next and all this other stuff.
Virgo Blade, you can check me out on TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Insta. More reviews. I do The Last of Us, comic books, DC, Marvel, MCU, lots of breakdowns. And I try to interact with everybody. So if you want to reach out and talk to me, you can always do that.
And yes, guys, I probably will be going live again sometime this week. I don't know. Maybe I got to figure out because I can do it by myself. And I'm like, I want to talk to somebody. So I got to try to finagle schedules. It's hard, but I do plan on doing the latest episode of The Last of Us, or maybe I'll just have Ethan on again. If you are you down? Maybe, I don't know.
I'll let you know. This week is a little weird with my schedule, but
so
I'd like to.
So we'll see. Be on the lookout for that. Hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And with that, we are out.